We're going to have a look at a conversation that happened on GB News recently with a so-called expert on energy who was, in essence, unable to answer any questions whatsoever about anything to do with energy. So here's that clip here, and I'll throw in a little bit of our dear Ed. And just to remind you, the answer is blowing in the wind.
So my friend is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
We should be going full pelt for the clean, green jobs of the future.
But that's been deemed a fantasy. Right, I'm joined now with the co-founding director of E3G and former government advisor on climate change, Tom Burke. So what do you think? I mean, it was a bit jumbly, but you know what I'm saying, Tom. We can't afford it.
No, about what you think, Nala, not at all. No, but you've been reading a bit too much of the Telegraph, I think. And it's quite interesting to note that though you and they have been launching this extraordinary tirade against Ed for the last, year and a bit, the British public aren't paying much attention to you. It doesn't matter what you say, what the Telegraph says. The fact of the matter is most people still want more done about climate change than the government is doing. So you need to do something more if you're going to move the British public, because clearly what you're doing isn't working.
Well, look, you're saying that we've got it wrong, but, these sums are quite extortionate and quite expensive. Heat pumps cost about £13,000, a gas boiler is about £3,500. People can't afford it, and we don't have the housing stock that is the right kind of stock to be putting it in our homes at a cheaper cost. So that's not wrong, that's true.
You were right to worry about the £700 million of public money being spent quite properly. But if you're going to worry about that, you should be worrying about the 2.3 billion a year we spend on subsidising an oil industry that's already making profits. So why are we continuing to subsidise an oil and gas industry which puts bills up for people and not subsidise an industry that actually gets bills down?
Getting heat pumps. Where have they got bills? They haven't got bills down there, have they? Ed Miliband promised a £300 saving. So far, we're spending, it's costing us about £900 a year more.
Well, he promised £300 if we got to net zero by 2030, and we're still not there yet. So give him, that's annually. By the time we get to 2030, that was what he promised, and we'll wait and see whether he gets it. People, you're right, should hold him to account if he doesn't do that. But I don't think the government made a mistake keeping him on board. As I've said, the public so far is listening more to him than he is to the Telegraph for you.
So there you have Tom Burke, who was the founder of a company called E3G. And this is a company, if you can go on their website, you can have a look here. And it says on their people, together they combine to represent 30 nationalities and 20 languages. I'm not really sure why that's a good thing. It must be really hard to communicate in the office. I suppose everyone just speaks English because that's the common language, but it seems strange that an energy company should need to tell us how many nationalities and languages everyone's talking, and there does seem like there's a preponderance in there of women in terms of the proportion, but hey, that's probably just how the cookie crumbles. And so just to look at a couple of this man's arguments there, the lady Nana from GB News just put really basic questions. Number one, heat pumps cost 13.5 grand on average, while a normal gas boiler is about 3.5. Now, we are in troubled times economically. Money's tight for everybody. House builders are obviously wanting to build houses and put boilers in these houses, and they are conscious of the fact that if they're going to spend an extra 10 grand on a house, then guess who's going to pick up that bill? So they're not really wanting to install these heat pumps into new dwellings, although they're being forced to in some instances. But certainly, if you've got somebody who's living in a house and they need to replace their boiler, the choice that you've got is, do you pay 13.5 grand, have some of the room at the back of your house taken up? Also, you've got the noise as well, and there were complaints in some of the parliamentary buildings when heat pumps were installed, and that's why they were taken out of some of the government buildings. So there is a noise element to them as well. They do draw power, a lot of power sometimes, to keep them going, as opposed to what you've got at the minute costing 3,500. And I think for most people in this country, they don't have an additional 10 grand lying around the place just to upgrade their boiler because they're worried about climate change. And you saw his reaction to that. His reaction is, but you're spilling propaganda, and you in the Telegraph. That's not what she asked. She asked, how are people supposed to afford this? Then, when he didn't answer that, she followed up with another question. Didn't Ed promise us £300 off our bills? And he said, oh, well, that's by 2030, and if it doesn't happen, then, you can hold him to account. So let me disabuse you of any confusion you may have on this issue. If you've looked into this, you may already know this, but I'm just going to make it 100% clear for you here. There is no possible way that any bills are going to come down by 2030. In fact, quite the reverse. On top of the fact that bills have already risen a substantial amount, and it varies region to region because there are regional costs to energy that have to be absorbed. But in terms of the actual network, what you're going to see and what people are going to be seeing from April 2026 is a change in charges. Now, there is a special charge that goes on to your energy bill, and you can look this up. I'll put something on the screen for you here, but it's related to something called TNUoS. Now, that's an abbreviated term, and basically what that is, that's the part of your energy bill that the suppliers levy onto you to maintain the core of the network. And what we're talking about there is, the big pylons and the big works that go on. Like, we're talking about the really big infrastructure that holds the network together, the nerve center of the network, where everything happens. We're not talking about the little substations where you are. That's a different part of the network, and a different set of charges are levied for that. But the TNUoS charges are part of the network, and that is the big stuff that goes on. We're talking about, as I said, the pylons, but also, the solar, the wind, the new generation of power that's coming to the country. And that's estimated to be increasing everyone's bills from April 2026 by £100. Now, Ofgem haven't actually signed off on this yet because they're scared to. Ofgem's a little bit worried about this charge because they're the ones that are going to have to sign off on it. Ofgem sit in the middle, they're the regulator of the government, the suppliers and the consumer, and more Ofgem has been ideologically captured by this part of the government who are net zero zealots. And Ofgem are going to be signing off on this, and where this is going to hit, it's going to hit all businesses more than the domestic market. The domestic market itself is going to, as I said, on average, bills are going to go up by £100 depending on your consumption, depending on your region as well. But the people that are going to shoulder most of this are the large energy consumers. And so those people there, they're expecting huge increases. So if you're running any type of factory, whatever it is, a large place that does things, those people can expect an increase in their bills between 5 and 10 grand a year. So they're going to bear the brunt, but the domestic market is also going to bear the brunt as well. And so from April 2026, everyone's bills are going to go up. And this is what's happening, and we can expect more of this as it goes on. So what we're talking about here, and what that gentleman was alluding to before, was, well, most of the people in the country, everyone seems to want net zero. Well, I've never met anybody that wants more net zero. I've never met anybody that wants to push harder and faster with this. And this is part of the elites. This is part of the net zero zealotry, where everyone believes that the climate's going to implode. And of course, it's all our fault for doing it. And as Keir Starmer said, Britain is going to be a world leader. We want to be number one in net zero. And of course, all of the oil that's sitting in the North Sea, we're just going to leave that. And what we're going to do, we're going to pay through the nose to import oil from other countries. And while you're at it, we'll close all the coal mines, but we're still going to import a ton of coal because we still need coal to be running things and, wood and all the rest of it. And so we're in a position where we have lots of natural resources and the government aren't using them. And what they're doing is they're shipping in and paying through the nose and, being charged to the eyeball for things that we've got already here. And as time goes on, I think as bills increase year on year, as they're going to, the full scale of this extremely dangerous road that Mr. Miliband is taking us down is going to be laid bare. And he's going to be remembered, this man, as the man who broke the UK's energy industry and, as I've said previously, the most expensive politician in UK history. That's Mr. Miliband. And that unique claim to fame makes him a very, very special individual. But as for putting money on household bills, with the rising cost of living, I mean, these people, unbelievable. Thanks very much for your time.